to today's session on the AI community of practice. This community is really designed for us collectively within this talent and development space. As we're getting started, and those who are coming on right now, if you could go to menti.com and type in the code 51044861. Mark, can you put that into the chat? And we'll use that to set the stage as we're going forward. So Beyond the Sky, myself and my team, we are really focused on creating effective learning experiences that are custom to each organization. And by effective, there's such a role for effective AI use within an organization and effective skill adoption. And that's why we're so excited to be able to help elevate our entire community to ensure that we collectively as an industry are best poised to harness this technology or the forces of good so we can actually help create more talented workplaces. Again, myself, I'm Danielle Wallace, the CEO of Beyond the Sky, for those who are just joining. And joining me here is our COO, Yelena.
Hey everyone, I'm Yelena. You may remember me from previous sessions. I'm super delighted to be here today as we support each other in our AI journeys.
And Marcus Bernhardt, our special guest.
Yeah, hello, great to be here. As always, this community of practice has been running for some time now, and it's always good conversations during and after the meetings. So looking forward to another round of these.
And with that, this is our third year actually in this community practice. And we've brought together hundreds of people to have these awesome minds together to share. This really is your chance. It's your opportunity to connect with others, share insights, thoughts, examples. We'll start off their discussion on that note, and then we'll be moving into a breakout so we can get a bit deeper and just have a bit more opportunities for sharing of ideas. Those sessions will be moderated, so it's super easy on your behalf. And then finally, we will regroup and we'll have Marcus be able to answer your AI questions, which we're delighted that we have his expertise here for that. So with that, again, those who are just joining in right now, so amazing to see you. If you could go to menti.com with the code 51044861, we'll be picking up on that a bit later. We'd love to get a sense of where you are on your AI journey. And then collectively, we will also be sharing ideas, both within the session here, but also within our breakout. So we have a bit more time to get deeper, and then Marcus will be answering those questions. So with that, let's see how, I'm really curious to know how you are using AI in your organization. So for those who haven't answered yet, feel free now. And what we're seeing as actually exciting here. So we're seeing that more organizations are making progress. In general, I'm seeing this across the board. I'm seeing that this is mirroring what I'm seeing. I'm nice to know that people are expanding AI integration across processes. That's a really good place to be starting for efficiencies. And that we are making some progress in pockets. We still continually see en masse what the adoption is uneven. En masse, we have going forward in pockets, not in others. And my reassurance to everybody is don't worry, because many of those in the top bucket there we have yet to start the AI journey. Don't worry, because everybody's behind. So don't reduce the pressure. We're all in this journey together. So the AI adoption really is uneven, but there is so much that we can learn from those perhaps who are doing some cool things that perhaps they would like to share. Is there anybody that would like to share how they are progressing or what you're play testing with, even as it relates to AI? George, great. Jovi, if you could, and then we'll go to Hina. So George, would you like to share? And we'll have Jovi unmute you.
Is unmuted, so you just need to unmute his mic.
There we go. All right. Thank you. Hey, thanks for the invite too. We've done some really cool stuff lately with bringing AI into the loop. As far as we now have in every single course a course assistant, but we found out real quickly that that became the bar. So instead of it being a cool thing, it's now the bar. So we had to introduce more where we have a lot of AI role play, different things like that, where there's active learning that's happening with our soft skill development, different skills like that. And we've implemented a complete overhaul of our design process where we have our AI assistant, we call it Desi, that is within the entire process, where we've taken our design process from 72 days to about 21. And it's worked out really well. We piloted it first. Now we've done our first 8 courses with it, and we found that 21-day mark is really the sweet spot for us. And the courses are more interactive, and they're a little bit better. And the big thing was we didn't want the subject matter experts to feel taken back, like they lost value, and it's had the opposite effect because the way that we engage with the subject matter expert is we use Desi as sort of a jumping off point instead of beginning with a blank page. So it's been kind of neat to do that and to see that it's been helpful as opposed to not.
That's amazing. And maybe we should unpack that a bit more in who's in the breaker rooms they're in, because that's super fascinating. Because I know I have so many, I bet everybody has lots of questions and ideas that go with that. That's so awesome, George. Thank you. Using it both for processes, but also for teaching. Hina, thank you. Maybe we'll go to yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Wow, George, that was a fascinating example, first off. For me, one of the ways that I've been using AI in my business that I think is going to be transformative to the L&D industry is really leveraging the AI tool as a learning partner. So for myself, I've been playing a lot with Google AI Studio. So as an example, I'm in the midst of an Excel document, putting together a pivot table, trying to understand how I get a specific output, and I leverage Google AI Studio to share my screen, speak to Gemini and say, hey, this is the output I'm looking for. Can you guide me through that process? So through Gemini, it'll step-by-step guide me as a learning guide in terms of what I need to do to get to the accomplished task. Similarly, I've done that with Canva. So I've used Google AI Studio in partnership with Canva, sharing my screen and really conversing with Gemini in terms of what creative elements should I be using, what best represents my brand, what colors, what fonts, and having that partner really look at it from a branding lens and help me through making those type of decisions. So really using it as a learning guide has been super impactful for me in my business.
That's so cool. And so I've got a clip I can share as well that shows that. So using Google AI Studio to be able to talk with Gemini, that's so transformative. Imagine a world where everybody has a coach within their platform, their system. This is a cool
like you have Canva open.
So I've never worked with Canva before, and I'm trying to create a YouTube thumbnail.
Sure, I can help you with that. Do you want to start with a template or from scratch?
From a template would be great.
Okay, let's start with a template. On the Canva homepage, you should see a row of options, and one of them says YouTube thumbnail. Do you see it?
Yes, I just selected it.
Great. You should now be on a screen with a blank canvas and some template options on the left. Do you want to browse through the templates? Or do you already have an idea of what you want your thumbnail to look like?
How can I find a template that works for what I need? My topic is about AI tools.
Okay, you want a template for a YouTube thumbnail about AI tools. At the top of the templates panel, there's a search bar. Type AI in there and hit enter, and that should bring up templates related to that topic. Do you see the search bar?
Okay, so I see a number of really good options, but I can't quite choose. Can you help me pick one?
Of course I can help. Could you tell me more about what your video is about and what kind of vibe you're going for? This will help me narrow down some options.
Yeah, in this video, I'm going to talk about different AI tools and different use cases for them.
Okay, so the video is about different AI tools and their use cases. Since it's educational, let's look for a template that is clean and informative rather than overly flashy. There are a few templates with titles like AI tools or artificial intelligence. Can you see any that fit that description?
What do you think of this one?
That template with the title Best AI Tools looks like a good option. It's clear and attention grabbing. Do you like it?
I do. Can you tell me how to edit it?
Yes, I can definitely help you with that. To start editing, you can click on any element in the template, like the text, the photo, or the graphics. Once you've clicked an element, you can use the editing tools that appear above the canvas to change its size, position, color, and more. Would you like me to start with editing the text?
Can you tell me some best practices for creating YouTube thumbnails?
Sure, here are a few best practices for creating YouTube thumbnails. Use high-quality images that are clear and relevant to your video topic. Make sure the text is easy to read at a small size, and use contrasting colors. You also want to keep your thumbnails consistent with your branding, and ensure they accurately represent the content of your video, as this will help attract viewers.
So, Hina, that's pretty awesome. I understand that's you also have a YouTube channel with your sister. And your focus, though, and as I see others in the chat as well, are not even just in the talent development space, you're being in the marketing space. That's pretty awesome. Like, what an amazing use case to now suddenly have within any system, like your own coach. That's pretty cool. Thank you so much, Hina.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating to have an on-demand coach that will guide you through the process while you're in it. So the use cases are fascinating.
Awesome. And then Sarah, would you like to share? Oh, Jovi, can you mute her?
Thank you, everybody. So yeah, that was really amazing, Hina. Like I'm avoiding going down the route of AI video generation and just generally, but what I've been focusing on is I'm officially calling this decoding algorithmic bias, and I think a couple of people have sat in on a session I did at a conference. But basically, when I'm searching for either AI images or just even stock images, it's just understanding how to write a good prompt, especially with AI, to make sure that you're not getting something hugely and overtly racist or completely wrong. So the words you use, the combinations of words you use are really, really challenging, I'm finding. So I'm starting to learn more, but AI image generation isn't really there in terms of the world of equity, diversity, and inclusion. I'm also avoiding in 11 Labs. Some of you may use 11 Labs for your audio generation. There's a feature where you can create an agent, which is essentially a chat bot, I think. I know nothing about it, and I'm completely avoiding it because I'm going to go down a huge rabbit hole. But what I'd like to do eventually is build something that could potentially be used as an add-on to a virtual environment or even simply an e-learning course that people can ask questions of. So leadership training, that type of thing. But again, I'm not even looking at my other screen because I know I'll be hours playing with it. So that's what I'm working on.
Awesome.
Or not working on in this case.
But it's great. And there's so much that we can, it's great. And the whole purpose of this community practice is to share what we are thinking about, what we're working on, springboard for ideas for others, and help us collectively, elevate our community. To that end, I'll share an example. I'm going to be brief in the interest of time, but I wanted to let be aware of a new feature. So this is an AI role play. So you're able to have an interaction and you get 100% personalized feedback. So I'm having a conversation and you can talk to it, you can talk back. In this case, I deleted this part of the audio and the feedback is 100% personalized and it can be delivered via
Your response could be perceived as indirectly questioning the team member's responsibility or implying that they haven't considered their workload, which might make them feel defensive. Instead, consider a more empathetic and direct approach.
So again, I just want to show you a small clip in the interest of time, but imagine this world now where you can actually be talking to your AI avatar that has a face, that has a voice, that can have expression. It really opens up a lot of more possibilities to future skills practice. And I'm happy to go into the break rooms to share, what are some of the limitations of that. But collectively, there's so much that we could be doing to upskill.
So this was I was talking about. So if you give a prompt like create an avatar of an old woman, Indian, or you can take off Indian with phone showing GPay, Google Pay, because if you're creating something, you need a Google Pay option there. So if you hit create here, and it's again in the Canva, and it's the leftmost, if you see the panel here, this called this Dream Lab. So you'll get the image, which is downloadable, and you can use it in your PP presentations. You can use it in your learning courses, and they're really good to use. And for free, you could get 20 upgrades on this for free. But if you get the membership for Canva, that's you can have the more limits to create those images.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that, and also some of the features that might be available to anybody, even without a subscription.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yes. Okay.
And clearly, it's interesting because despite some of the limitations, what we're collectively seeing is that many of us are still able to play test and move forward. Anything else you'd like to share on this, Yelena?
Yeah, we're just reflecting, as I said earlier, on these beautiful examples and opportunities we have, and I feel it's so exciting for everybody. And I'm super curious to hear what others are experiencing in terms of potential challenges that their workforce is adopting AI is facing. So if you will please share in Menti with the code that you see on screen. And if you'd like to expand on your answers in the chat, we are keen to hear your opinion on this.
Oh, so there is this continual, so we do continue to see the lack of understanding about AI across organizations and the continuation of privacy concerns, enterprise restrictions. Those continue to be enduring themes. And yet, what we're also seeing within some of our conversations that we've been having and the sharing here is that there still is things that we can do, even if it's on our own, to ensure that our own skills are augmented and our own skills continue to allow us to not be left behind. I'm speaking with organizations actually about this. So even though their enterprise is locked down, I'm working with them to ensure that their team has the skills so they won't be left behind when suddenly the organization gives the green light on use of AI. And I think within our groups that we've been moving into shortly, I think there's lots we can learn from each other on ways that some of us are getting around some of these barriers and what are the different solutions that we have been testing, we have been using. So very shortly, you will be whisked into breakout rooms. They are random. I do encourage you to leave your camera on. You will be able to speak aloud and they will be facilitated so we can have really awesome and rich discussion. Thank you everybody for the rich discussions in the group. I'm eager to share mine, but particularly curious, Yelena, to hear what the insights were from your breakout room.
Yeah, very interesting conversation. I'm happy to hear that most people did not report any problems with their organization or corporation in general, limiting their experimentation or adoption of AI, which is fascinating to hear. What I heard mostly was two things. One is challenges with people not knowing where to start, like individual attitudes towards AI, not knowing where to start, not seeing the value, perhaps, or a specific use case that would be valuable for them, which is interesting. And then there's also the cost of experimentation. So as the tools are evolving quickly, and most of them have pro or free version, people have commented on how difficult it is to navigate and learn about the different tools when you need to invest in the pro version to be able to get all the features of it. So it's like these two aspects that are quite individual, I would say. So it's on an individual level that we need to solve those. And an interesting solution has come up from Maxine, for example. She shared how boot camps help people overcome those issues by showing them what's possible. It does take time, but it is a structured way to help people embrace AI and start using it. We don't hear you.
Amazing. I'll share my group and then I'll ask a question for yourself, Marcus. So in our group, we had spoken about the benefits and the actual use cases of using Notebook LM, for example, to have with the pro version, you can actually interact with the podcast. With the free version, you can actually create a podcast. And Charles, Arnold, Doug, George had great examples for which to share. And that brought us to one of the questions, which I'm going to tee up for yourself, Marcus, is that with that, and then using the pro version, and then all the other tools, it gets to be really expensive. Any thoughts, Marcus, on how to navigate this increasing world where at one point in time, I can imagine that everything is just yet another subscription that becomes overburdening as we're thinking about using generative AI. Do you have any thoughts on how we might approach how to effectively learn with those constraints? I think we need to unmute Marcus.
There we go. Now I'm unmuted. Okie doke. Great question. I mean, this is something we all struggle with, right? It's a real challenge to stay on top of the tools. And then, I mean, especially last week, we saw so many new models come out that it becomes really overwhelming to try to stay on top. I would say don't overthink it. You can try to follow different models, but really don't overthink it. If you've got the one that you're subscribing to, you're probably doing all right there. OpenAI still has the biggest variety. I'm now using lots of O3 Mini High because it has reasoning and because it has internet access. I used to really like the Anthropic piece, and Sonnet 3.7 is amazing, but it still lacks the internet access. You can't tell it to go and research something. So that's where Anthropic have always been really behind. And then beyond that, it really depends on what kind of a person you are, because only few people go beyond that and run models, for example, on their own system, or want to try out other models as well. That said, I know that a lot of people have Perplexity as well, and are still fans thereof. A player that's been totally overlooked in this space and still very unknown is you.com, you.com. They target the enterprise space. They don't target us as individuals. Therefore, we don't get any marketing for them. And that's why they're so badly known. But they are the better version of Perplexity, and their search doesn't give you any ads of what you should be buying. They still only do internet research. And really beautifully, you.com allows you access to almost all the models, whether it's the OpenAI models on the $20 a month version, or whether it's the Anthropic on the $20 a month, or all of those models, including Llama, DeepSeek, a version that runs in the US that's not linked to China, any of those, the Mistral that's come out of Europe. On you.com, the annual subscription is $180. There you can test out all the models, and they keep adding new models. So if you are more interested in the playground, you.com is the place where you should be, because you have access to Gemini from Google. You have access to all of them. And $20 a month times 12 is $240, and $180 a year is very competitive compared to that. There are tiny downsides, like you can't upload quite as many documents when you're working with the tool. But unless you're trying to upload a 150-page PDF, which probably the fewest of us are doing, because that really goes close to where are you with privacy, especially if you're doing it for work. Then I would say for most of us, the drawbacks of joining that one aren't big enough to warrant not going there. So for most of the people, I would say that could be an alternative if you want to explore more and go beyond your current $20 a month subscription wherever you have it, or maybe consolidate, even having your Anthropic and your Perplexity, which then takes you to almost $500 a month, a little bit. And yes, Dan, that's the u.com. That's the one. And for a little bit of background where they came from and why you haven't heard of them, well, number one, I've already said it's because they target enterprise customers. So they've partnered with Reuters, right? And they're doing Reuters and they're doing work on news. So they are very big on non-hallucination. Of course, they're not perfect, but that's where they're marketing. That's why you don't hear of them. Richard Zocher, their CEO, is the former head of AI at Salesforce. So he knows what he's doing, and he's often referred to as the inventor of prompt engineering in the mid-2010s. So he does know what he's doing. He's not a weak Perplexity competitor. He's a really strong Perplexity competitor. That's my 2 cents worth on that. I hope that's useful.
Very useful. Thank you. Very tangible, practical. Yelena.
Yeah, and I think this is a question that we hear in every session that we have. In our group, it came up as well. So, Marcus, I wonder what's your most up-to-date opinion on the ethical limitations that still exist in companies, things like privacy control and the content that we share with these AI models. Has there been any update or anything that you think that could be useful for our group and the issues that they expressed?
Number one, this is a good concern to have, and we should have this concern whether we're working with AI or whether we're doing anything else in our organizations. I think biases are still a problem in society and not a problem limited to AI. So it's great to have this conversation and to have an eye on this. AI is bringing this discussion more into the forefront, which is particularly good, especially in some countries' political climates at the moment as well. I'm looking at Europe, I'm looking at North America. We have to have this conversation, and we need to keep this conversation going. The models themselves, I always say you need to understand when you're talking about AI bias, you're usually not talking about something that is hardwire programmed. DeepSeek might be an exception. In DeepSeek, you get something that's hardwired programmed that says Tiananmen Square never happened. But that's very different. In all the others, I would say in the vast majority of cases, you're looking at the fact that we trained this thing on the internet, and that the internet is majority Western, majority white, majority male, majority between 25 and 40. So you will get those biases, and you get our normal biases in our societies that are reflected through these user bases that have filled the internet. You get them mirrored back at you. So it's not about bad actors. It is the fact that when we train them with lots of information, then this information will reflect who we are as a society. And I guess I always talk about the importance of AI literacy and fluency, and staying on top of how prompting works. I'll link the article I've recently published on this as well there for your information. I think people are starting to understand better how prompts work. They're understanding better how large language models work. They're understanding better why they get some hallucinations or not. And we're also seeing that this is useful because suddenly you can prompt in Canva, suddenly you can prompt in Adobe Acrobat, suddenly you can prompt in another, and all the same rules apply. And we saw earlier, when you ask for an Indian lady, you get an Indian lady. If you don't ask for an Indian lady, you might get a mixture of different ethnicities, or you might, in a case, have no mixture of ethnicities. I think the conversation needs to be had around the user also has a responsibility. We can't, for the next 5 years, point at the system and the tool not being perfect, right? If I miss the nail with my hammer and I hit my finger instead, well, I can only complain so much about the people who designed the hammer. So if I'm prompting, for example, for a bigger diversity in my images or similar example, then I have a responsibility that I can use there as well. So I would say you're absolutely right to bring this topic up. Let's keep the conversation going. Let's see what role we play as human users to ensure that our checks and balances are in place, and to continue the conversation around how balanced AI tools are and how they are developing. But yeah, great conversation. Please keep it going, and please let's see if we can further improve not just the tools but also our society.
Fabulous. I encourage everybody to keep those considerations in mind, and also to put any questions you might have into the chat. I'll answer one briefly, but very briefly, about AI for video demonstrations instructions. I'm using, I haven't found one, Roger, that gets exactly to what you're saying. I'm using Pictory.ai, but still, I appreciate your ongoing concern. And what I say is that every single month, the tools get better. I subscribe to a lot of AI video tools, and they continually get better. So it's so frustrating right now, so frustrating. But over the long haul, I'm with it for the end game, and eventually these will get better. And I guess maybe with that, Marcus, a question I have for you is, as we think about that end game, what are some of the things we as practitioners and as learning leaders should be thinking about right now as it relates to AI adoption within our organizations?
Because we're looking at this from a learning angle, I think the biggest thing we need to look at is how performance and performance support is changing. We used to say there's learning and training in the formal fashion over here. Then there are small performance support tools and maybe job aids here, and then the rest is the work that gets done. Because these tools are becoming so conversational, and we saw a fantastic example earlier where someone was coached into the program and said, "Do you want to go over to the templates we've got, or have you got an idea already?" And you know, the AI is becoming part of the apps. We're moving away at a really big pace from AI being a thing that is separate. And so that for me is the main thing we need to keep an eye on. That changes how learning and training and performance support will work. Often this hype around, you know, the micro learning or the learning in the flow of work as things that we've looked at in the past. As we look forward, these things are becoming more realistic, because you can just hit a button and you can ask a question and you'll get that support there and then. And in a conversational way, these tools will become, you know, even more of a personal assistant that can also answer questions about the job, answer questions about tools, and help us there. As this progresses, the role of learning and development and talent development in our organizations will shift, and so will HR. I don't have the crystal ball, and I never profess to have one, but I would say, you know, a good AI literacy, and ideally being fluent enough around these tools to say you even have AI fluency, is a good step to move you into a competitive position, as well as your team members and your team as a whole, to be ready for how things are changing. I can foresee that the learning and talent development function will become a little bit more decentralized, because of how these tools are dispersed and how people are using them. But even in a case where that happens, we'll need an umbrella function that knows about learning and training. And we need to keep in mind that the whole world isn't desk workers with white collars. There are organizations that have people that do things with their hands, that run shop fronts, that don't work from home and actually sell things on the high street and in the shops. So there's a huge variety here. So I'm not trying to give you an answer that is one size fits all. But as a general trend, that's where I see things heading, and what I think we as professionals need to do. We need to stay AI literate and as fluent as possible with these tools and what's happening, so that we can support our organizations in how to get the most out of them and how to deliver business value.
I love that. And as we can support our organization to get the great business value from it, we can also support each other. I'll be happy to answer some of these more specific questions within our LinkedIn community practice, as I think we'll be drawing to a close. But I do encourage, Mark will be putting that into the chat, and I do encourage us to continue these conversations. We've got great learning from each other that we've had, great insights from Marcus, and all together collectively, we can really use this knowledge to help us elevate our industry, so we are effectively using technology to bring about real meaningful change. With that, I do encourage you to keep learning. To support you on that endeavor, we do have a prompt template that can help you get started. I think some people might have had that. We also have a YouTube You in 2042 podcast channel, which goes deeper into many of these topics as well. And then on a more granular basis as well, we do offer an AI masterclass, which is a hands-on session, so you can actually help your teams be upskilled effectively in use of generative AI within your organizations. If you're interested in those e-learning interactions that are 100%, give you 100% customized feedback, AI role plays, we're happy to teach you how to do that, or we can create that for yourself, for your organization. Altogether, we're really here. Whether you want a sounding board for, some AI tools that might be suitable for your use case, or whether you want something more holistic, like through Mark, all together, we are here collectively to help and support you. I love all the conversations, such a rich chat, such a rich community. I do encourage you to put those questions into our LinkedIn community practice. Mark will put that into the chat, and please reach out to us. You can reach me by my email, which you would have got from this invite as well. We look forward to seeing you perhaps in a masterclass or in any other different endeavor that we can best support you in. Thank you so much, everybody. What an amazing conversation. We packed in a lot. Thank you so much.